Our story begins with a series of letters written by Robert Walton to his sister Margaret. He tells her of his trip to the North Pole, his boat getting stuck in the ice, and a miraculous surprise. They are not alone. Victor Frankenstein is there too, traveling across the unforgiving Arctic by dog sled. Nursed back to health by Walton and his crew, Victor tells them his story. He grew up happily in Geneva with his two companions, Elizabeth and Henry. All goes well until Victor's mother dies from scarlet fever. Consumed with grief, Victor buries himself in his work at the University of Ingolstadt and develops an obsession with creating life and defeating death, ultimately giving life to a monstrous creature, a sewn-together collection of stolen body parts. Horrified by this patchwork creature, Victor flees in fear. As he sleeps that night, he finds himself plagued with nightmares, only to wake up and find the monster looming over him. Bolting out onto the streets in a panic, Victor finds Henry and brings him to see the creature, only to find the room empty and the monster missing. In his distress, Victor falls ill and ultimately decides to return to Geneva to recover, Henry coming along as his caretaker. But before they can leave, they receive terrible news. Victor's youngest brother, William, has been murdered. Now, with even greater reason to return, they begin their journey, Victor alone glimpsing the monster wandering through the woods, where William was killed, realizing the obvious. Arriving home, Victor finds Justine Moritz accused of the murder. Justine had been taken in by the Frankensteins and served as the family's housemaid. But when she is found fast asleep at the scene of the crime, with William's precious locket in her pocket, she is presumed guilty and executed. Tormented by the loss of his loved ones, Victor retreats into the mountains to clear his mind. There, Victor is confronted by the creature himself, who admits to murdering William and framing Justine using the locket. However, the monster justifies these crimes with his life story of abandonment, loneliness, and ugliness. The creature begs Victor to make him a companion, promising to swear off violence and leave society if Victor does. Victor is horrified at first, but the monster's eloquent words soon win him over, and Victor departs to England to begin his work. As Victor begins to sew together a female form, his mind becomes overwhelmed with the potential consequences of his new creation and dismantles it, as the monster watches stealthily. The creature swears vengeance against Victor. It promises to return on Victor's wedding night. Determined that this new creation should never come to be, Victor dumps the disassembled parts into the ocean. A storm brews, his boat is blown off course, and Victor soon finds himself in a small town, where he is presumed to be a murderer. Henry has been killed, and Victor is once again sick with grief. The charges eventually dropped, his father coming to take him home. When their wedding night arrives, Victor sends Elizabeth to another room for safety, as he awaits a final showdown with the monster. But with Elizabeth's screams, he comes to realize that it is she the creature meant to kill, and not Victor. Tragically, Victor's father dies as well, overcome with grief. With no one left in his life, Victor swears to kill his monster, chasing it to the Arctic, where he is ultimately rescued by Walton and his crew. But on the return trip to England, Victor dies, and Walton soon finds the creature on the boat mourning Victor's death. The monster proclaims that without Victor, his life of suffering and grief was pointless, and vows to kill himself, disappearing, never to be seen again.